Welcome back to not just another episode, but a new season of listening to the voices in our heads, where creative minds get together and nerd out about their creative processes in a world not necessarily built for them, while they're building their own creations in their businesses and more. My name is Jenna O'Malley. I am your soul writer, author of sci-fi, fantasy, healing stories, dashes of romance, and more. Welcome, 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 welcome. I have a dear friend with me today, and we are going to be talking about so many things that you have seen this person chat about, perhaps on your channel, perhaps on her own channel even, in the authortube and writing spaces. She's been such a huge supporter to so many of us here, and today, nerding out about music, crystals, and map making, we have a dear friend all the way over from Miranda's Cauldron. Let's jam.
Hi, everyone.
Hello. Welcome on in. Tell us all about you, my friend.
Well, I'll try to keep this short. I'm Rita H. But then when I decided to start my own YouTube channel, I decided to use a combination of my pen name, which was actually my daughter's name for the first 12 hours of her birth, and Cauldron because of, witches and paganism. So that's where I got the Miranda's Cauldron. But I answer both Miranda or Rita. I grew up in Ontario, Canada, and then I moved out west when my kids were 2 and 4. Now they are 24 and 26. I write young adult, supernatural urban fantasy with elementals and witches and family secrets. I've written so far 3 different series. One in my second series, which is Essence of Elements. I've actually finally got enough courage to go and get beta readers. So that one is almost ready for the next step. I tend to write my 2 books in one for the first time through. So the Essence of Elements are actually 2 books already. I just have to write books 3 and 4. I have ideas, but nothing written down. I also wrote, again, books 1 and 2 together, Witches of Solace, which is set in 1984. I started that when my kids were in elementary school. So between being a full-time mom, volunteer at the school, and I was known as the writer mom. Because whenever I would volunteer on school buses, trips, whatever, I would have my binder because I tend to need to revise all the time. And then my sister asked me why I don't write any books that's based in Canada. So I decided to use my hometown as a backdrop of the 3rd series that I'm drafting.
Oh, wow. I knew you had 2. I did not realize that you were working on a 3rd. Oh my goodness. I'm so proud of you.
I started Maple River back in 2 nanos ago, which was my first nano.
You're right. You did. I remember that now because was it Tracy the Revised Writers channel you were talking about it, I think?
Probably. I try not to miss hers. Or for a while, I actually thought I was maybe attending too many sprints and not getting enough done on the whole home front. Mm-hmm. Like, sure, I would cook meals and dishes, but that was like, I didn't vacuum and all that fun stuff. And I'm also on Instagram under Miranda_Magick. And I have a Facebook page started. I tend to not be very, I'm just random posting for that, and it's under the same name. But you can also just pick me up on my regular Facebook page, which is where I'm at, Heart Breathings.
And of course, you do things on the YouTube. You host
sprints
on occasion. You do tarot streams.
I'm trying to do my tarot live stream once a month, close to the full moon. But I'm kind of thinking, since the last time I also did my cat wisdom cards, Cats Against Humanity, Animal Tarot, and there's like a few. So I'm kind of thinking of maybe dividing those cards up in half and do one on the new moon as well, which is tomorrow.
I was going to say that's tonight into tomorrow. Today's prep day for it for a lot of us. Love it.
And normally I sprint. And normally I do sprint Saturdays. However, because of some commitments for the next 6 to 8 weeks, I'm kind of maybe switching my times to Mondays and Wednesdays, because one of the ladies I sprint with, she takes the whole month of August off.
Right.
So I'm thinking, hey, I might just use some of her time.
There you go. There you go. That's not a bad idea at all. I like that. So, what kind of books, music, and so on inspires you to write, my friend?
Young adult, mainly because they read quicker. And I'm sorry, there's no spice. If it is, it's very, very little, because I don't really care for those kind of books. But I do like urban paranormal romance with witches and vampires and that. And a couple of my favorite authors, I'm just going to do a couple. Of course, I would not be here if it wasn't for Sarah Cannon. And I read her books way before I even knew she had a YouTube channel or a Facebook page. Christine Pope, she's an indie as well. I don't believe you might be able to find her books in paperback on Amazon, but mostly the ebooks. And when I was looking for new authors, she had a few series that the first book is free. So I grabbed one. And the next thing you know, I think I've read every one of her books, including sci-fi, which I really don't care for. But
she introduced you to something new.
It was Christine Pope, so of course I would read them. As well as Kirsten and PC Cast. They're a mother-daughter crew. I introduced that collection to my daughter, and then now she's getting other series that they're writing. And for more intense is the fantasy, but a lot of I've read every book in the Terry Goodkind series, Sword of Truth. But I do admit it's very dark. It's a little spicy. A lot of triggers, as I keep hearing about. But it's so good. The characters, even the bad guys, you're rooting for them in a way, but not really.
And the TV show they tried to make of it, don't come at me, audience, a couple years ago, I don't think they made it too light. Because you're right, those books do have a very dark fantasy, this is how life is undertone to them.
Exactly. And for the TV series, if it wasn't for the TV series, I never would have found the books.
Really? I'm so glad that the TV series did justice then.
The TV series was, oh my goodness, like, it was amazing. Like, as someone who never read his books, I'm like, the series was like amazing. And I didn't even know it was based on books.
Yeah.
But then once I was reading the books, I'm kind of like, yeah, this is not like, sure, you change some things, but don't change the main characters. Like, oh, he's my brother now, he's not my father. I'm like, what? And other things, I'm like, yeah, but the characters were spot on.
My first clue with the TV series, as someone who grew up reading the books and then saw the series in reverse, when a quad came onto the screen and there was only 3 people, I'm like,
where's the 4th?
People and even people that I know who had never read the books leaned over and said, where's the 4th guy? A quad means 4, right? And I'm like, yep. So tiny little things like that, I can see where at a first glimpse, most people wouldn't care, but you're right. That series is gorgeous, but it is not, they're comparable. They're not the same.
Exactly. And more the series and some bits of the book, I've used some of that pieces into my stories. Like in 2 of my books, in a way they have quads, but they're a little bit different. But they can break up into pairs. Like there's a pair that's always together no matter where they are, what they're doing. But those pairs make a new quad.
And that's a key part of your world operating. And I love it. I love it. I love it.
And that's actually in 2 of my books. Actually, even the 4th one, because it's all to do, even my 3rd one has to do with the 4 compasses and the 4 elements. So
that's very true.
all my series, other than my very, very, very first one that I wrote back in 1984, which is a murder slasher, really bad, but I wrote it when I was like under the age of 20.
You got it out of your system. There's some books we just need as authors to get out of our systems and enjoy. So of your instrumental music or just music in general suggestions, which channels or sources of music do you like to go to, or any songs you prefer to listen to?
Okay. Since I've discovered, well, I can't really say since I discovered, because I did listen to Celtic music back when I was writing Witches of Solus, because the main characters, I guess you call them the main characters of the background, they're from Scotland.
Oh, yeah,
And
that's
so
true.
you have to have the Celtic music. There's a lot of Irish Gaelic terms throughout the book. But since I've discovered YouTube, my number one instrumental would be, sorry for the punctuation, but Artemis. That's the one I listen to most of the time.
You introduced me to Artemis, and I'm just like, oh my God.
So most of the instrumental type music I listen to, my dad would be so happy, because growing up, that's all he listened to. And on road trips after day 4, we're like, Dad, can you please switch the music station to words? And now most of my day is listening to music with no words. So he's pretty proud. And a lot of the Viking and Noric stations, there's a couple that's Magic and Music, and it's with the K on each of those. And that's in a lot of witchy music. I did used to listen to Spotify a lot for different already made playlists. I've never been able to figure out how to make my own playlist, so I just listen to others.
Don't feel bad.
And then I discovered, thanks to the pop-ups when you're at a live stream or whatever, they have suggestions. And so a lot was like, oh, this is classic rock. This is alternative music from the 90s. Oh, cool. I'll go check this out. And I probably have about 300 music channels. And I'm like, why am I saving these all? They just keep popping up. But I have noticed that the ones when I go into the channel, and if it's a 2-minute commercial, I just skip it. It's like, I'm not here to listen to a podcast or a commercial. So a lot of those I
don't blame you. I don't blame you.
15-second ones are fine, but
yeah. Like I told my husband, a lot of us with ads, if it's less than 2 minutes, most of us, at least when I'm sprinting or something like that, or watching something that's a longer piece of content, I go, oh, I can go refill my cup right quick. You know what I mean? I don't mind those so much, especially if I'm like in need to go to the bathroom or something like that. But there's some people I know who do, it's like if they have a 3-hour video, you'll get an ad every 10 to 15 minutes, and it's 2 minutes long. And I'm like, what?
Yeah, I can't be.
Setting gets turned off for that, please.
Exactly. So I just, like, sometimes I would just skip the commercials, but if it happens again, I just unsubscribe.
Like it interrupts the playing experience. It's on every song.
Exactly. Especially when there's so many. There's just so many.
Mm-hmm. A studio I used to listen to, stationed, I want to say in Finland or Denmark, on YouTube, they would take and do a live stream, kind of like MTV, of all the music videos of all the bands they represent. And they didn't turn the ads off on the live stream feed. So after every song, guess what you get?
Oh yeah, that would be annoying. I do have noticed in some of the, I noticed in some of the other music stations that I go to, it even interrupts in the middle of a song. I'm like, no, delete. I'm not listening to that, especially when there's like literally hundreds of them.
Right. That's fair. So in sprinting chats, you often talk about your color-coded systems. What effect does color have on organizing things for you?
Okay. First off, the color coding as I'm doing now, so in depth in the past few years, it's only been a relatively new thing. But when I was writing my first book, I would write in pencil. I tried to write in pen, and the words just wouldn't work. So I'm like, okay, how did I write so much when I was a teenager? Oh yes, in pencil. So I wrote in pencil. I would write 500 in a notebook. I would write, and at that time I was just doing it on my own. So I would just write until I was tired, which could be literally hours. I remember when my kids were little, especially on a weeknight when it didn't matter what time the kids went to bed, they'd come downstairs, because at that time my office was in the basement, and they would come downstairs and say, Mom, it's bedtime. I went, oh, really? What time is it? It's 10:30. Oh, okay. And I'd been writing for the last 5 hours. But I would print it out, and I would revise, do little revisions, whatever, notes for myself, and colored pen. I never used black because the ink was black. I didn't use red very often unless I knew it was going to be a problem chapter. Then I would do red. but I would use green and purple, and sometimes the whole like would be one through in one color, and then I'd read it again and then change it with a different color. But thanks to Sarah, she color codes, and I now each one of my characters in each of my books have their own color. Usually the girls are usually pink and purple. Yeah, I'm that kind of girl. And the boys are usually green, but like a lime green or a light blue. That's my 4 main characters. And then when I had more point of view characters popping up, I would use a red, I would use an orange yellow, and then I tried to match those colors with my Post-it notes. And I did want to use yellow because it had a lot of yellow, but that's when I decided to use the yellow orange pen because it would show up. And I also have my index cards. And again, each card is a point of view. So these color-coded index cards, they're my chapter summaries. So for the first color, it's kind of like a purpley color. It's for Kaylee. She's my main character out of the 4, and her color is pink. So I have the pink Post-it notes is a little different, but it's still, hers is purple. So hers is more this color. And I use, of course, purple pen. And that kind of thing. And once upon a time, I would, even before I printed out, each chapter would have its own color font. But I would print it out in black. And I would use the various colors for my revisions.
See, I love this idea. I used to have students do something similar in an English classroom setting, but for academic writing. So to see people use it in various ways in the fiction world just warms my nerd heart so much. I love it.
And I even have the little the smaller Post-it notes, like these little ones, all in different colors. But surprisingly, I do not use a Kanban board, but I did pick up little Post-it notes the last time I was in town. So maybe I will next quarter. Maybe.
I am looking at moving mine to digital finally because I'm having a hard time leaning over this table. So it's either I got to rearrange my room again or I got to go digital if I want to keep the room the same way. So I'm feeling you on that upcoming change.
This is my Kanban board. This is my HB90 notebook. I know most people print them out. I, for one, just cannot waste that ink for lines. So I just put it all in a journal.
See, I did the bullet journal for the first 1.5 years, 2 years. I think I did HB90, and just had one of those, not styrofoam, but it's like cardstock, but a little thicker than normal poster board. And that was my Kanban board because
that's what I'm kind of thinking
everywhere. Yeah,
that's what I'm kind of thinking because I have like plastic file folders, kind of plasticky type, and I use that, but it's just not enough room.
I did that when we were moving a year ago, and I just stuck it in a binder so they kind of stayed together and were a little protective during the move. I can see where with what you do, and we're going to reflect on some of that maybe here in a little bit, that could be a good travel option for you. So speaking of supplies, though, if someone gifted you an unlimited supply of funding across a 24-hour period solely for crystals, tarot decks, and so on, what would you purchase?
Well, first of all, I would go online because the 2 shops or maybe 4 shops I would go to, they're back in Ontario. And that's like a 4-day drive. So it's not going to happen. Yeah. So I would check out websites of I don't know how many amethyst mines in the North Bay, Thunder Bay area. And I would just go shopping. And there's a sodalite mine in Bancroft, which is about an hour from where my dad lives. And I would just go there, and they have a wide selection of sodalite stones, as well as other crystals from all over the world, and jewelry. And I think the last time I was there, they even had tarot cards and little figurines. Oh, wow. So I would go nuts there. There's also a few crystal gift shops in Banff, Alberta, and I would have to go there. And there's even a few local stores like that in Regina and Moose Jaw, which is still a 2-hour drive. So I might actually go there if I drove, or I would have to talk someone to take me.
Well, that
And
could be included in the unlimited. Let's get real.
exactly. And of course, Michaels and Staples for just supplies.
I second the Michaels, especially this time of year, because by the time this comes out, it'll be right after the beginning of the school year in a lot of countries. So everything's on sale because they want to clear it out before the
Exactly.
Christmas season comes in.
And of course, IKEA, because I like IKEA, even though husband doesn't, but I like IKEA. And I would totally redo my writing space. I like my desk, but there's some things I could change it, and I would definitely need more shelves. And a new chair would be nice because I don't know if you've seen it on my Instagram, but I've had to repair my chair arm a few times. But I can't really complain because it was gifted by my daughter who got it from a friend who was going to throw it in the dumpster.
It's got a lot of mileage on it.
Oh, yeah, for sure. So I think that, and of course, clothing. Have to get myself new t-shirts, even though I have too many.
You can never have too many t-shirts, honey.
Just exactly. And fuzzy socks.
And fuzzy socks, yes.
Not this summer, though.
Oh, my goodness.
It's actually cold outside. Like, I went out this morning to feed the cats, and I probably should have wore pants.
It's that cold up there already?
Yeah. But as of yesterday, it was like, I don't know what it's like being Fahrenheit, but like over 90. Which is over 30 for us, and that's not normal for here.
But the fact that you guys are getting so cold at night so early in August is where I'm like, don't you guys normally get that around September?
Well, even last month, before we actually got an air conditioner for the first time ever, we would have the windows open at night, and by morning, maybe like 5 o'clock or so, I would have to close the window because it was too cold.
Oh, wow. I need that here in Maryland. So, the piece de resistance question. What is your map making process like, and do you have visuals?
Oh, yes, of course I have visuals. I just have to reach over here to my tower of little shelves and get them for you. Okay, my very first book I wrote, I did not do maps. And maps, I mean by floor plans. I had a map of, okay, this is the beach. These are the roads that they're going to take for various events. And then when I went back and read it, the next, like my read through, the house, which was only one house at the time that I even used in the book, was different. Every chapter was different. Like
really?
the furniture was here and the bedroom was over here. And it was like totally messed up. Like I even had the outside, like where the docks were and the forest, they were all different every time I read the chapter. It could be because I was only 16 and, well, I didn't know any better. But then I decided when I wrote my first book, which is a solace, I needed maps. So I had my 4 main characters, their names, and then I had to find their homes. So I looked online, and then I didn't print it out because why would I waste ink to print them out? So I just hand drew them. Pencils and rulers are my friends because I can't even draw a straight line. And then I would just, I guess I did print out some because this is one of the warriors' houses.
That's so cool. I'm going to make this.
And I haven't even did anything with this yet. If this actually, when they see the warriors' houses, might be in book 3.
That's so cool.
And of course, I grabbed the book, the little folder first that has none of this in this series or this book. Okay, and that is okay. So one of the mentors in the book, she of course is a witch, but secret. And her house, and of course, this is now the first floor on. I don't know if you can even see it on graph paper.
A little bit.
But the graph paper is a new thing. I only started doing that 2 years ago. Before that, everything was on just regular blank paper.
You were,
pencil.
Wow.
Yeah. And let's just say some of the rooms, my architectural draftsman husband would frown upon it because the bedroom was so big, the living room was so tiny. It was not in proportion whatsoever. And then I think it was about 3 years ago, I decided, hey, why don't I use graph paper? Might be a little bit easier.
It would standardize your scale.
Yeah. So for example, this is Kira's house, which you can't see, but I did all 3 floors. And she's just not in her house. She's in her yard. So of course I have to draw the map with her yard. I don't know if you can even see that. It's all in pencil.
But it's super detailed.
And then she also has her ancestral garden from her family, and it's different trees to do with the Celtic lore. And I've had to change those a few times. And of course, you can't be a witch without a pentagram. So
that's so cool.
Play, as well as where the different herbs and plants that she gathers. So each one of the characters' houses, so I have 4 of the kids, and they have their own drawing of their house. I have a coffee shop, witchy store, as well as a diner, a bookstore, and I've all drawn those. Here's one of the original of the coffee shop. And that was and that's in pen. And each color, of course, color coded back in mid 2000s. This was actually a building from one of the spooky townhouses that I collected for Michael's. And like I said, every table is drawn. This story also has runes, so I have runes throughout the story. And of course, my village map. And I even have my original village map for Witches of Solace.
This one's the one I remember seeing glimpses of so often. And I remember seeing, like, it's changed since the last time I've seen it.
Yeah, and this actually might be not the one I have on my face on YouTube.
Oh, that's true.
This is the one that I would have drawn this maybe 2010. No, probably before that, because I think I started writing this in about maybe 2008, 2009.
So definitely. What is your favorite part about map making?
When I just need a downtime. When I don't feel like writing. I'm just overwhelmed. So it's kind of like soothing, like reading.
Yeah.
And I do know that one of my, let's see, is it here? In another one of my series is the main setting is a camp.
True.
This one is set in the future. And of course, my camp, it's in pencil. You might be able to see it a little bit better. But the center circular thing is the gazebo.
Mm-hmm.
I can find it, is the gazebo. And each of the other buildings is their classroom settings. And then each classroom building has their own floor plan. And in this case, at this camp, there's a river all the way around it, and it's protected. As well as my sleeping cabins. My sleeping cabins, I have 5, and one of the cabins is split in half for boys and girls.
Oh, wow.
And they're based, and all 4 of my stores are also kind of based with elements of various degrees. And I don't know how many times I've redrawn this. And here's one of my ones in just blank paper.
It's definitely, you can see where they've gotten more detailed over time or less so, as depending on what you're working on. So how beneficial are maps for drafting versus marketing?
I would be totally lost without literally lost. Like, I know there's one in my Nexus Essence of Elements. There's about, when I wrote it the first time, there was maybe 2 chapters, very long chapters. And when they were on this separate quest to save one of the main characters, that they had to go into different areas of the camp beyond the river. And I don't know how many times I had to redraw the journey south, because that's where 3 of the 6 main characters go to. And I had to figure out, okay, how long would it take them to go from point A to point B? How long were they there? And I don't know how many times I redrew that while writing the draft, and then going back and changing the order of the chapters, cutting up chapters. So I start with the map. I write, add details to the map when I write, because I do start with a sort of an outline, but my outline changes. And just because the characters want to do this or do that. And then even after I'm done revising, I think I'm ready for readers, I end up changing the map again because I change other things. So there's 2 sections of the map that I don't know how many times I've rewritten. I redrew to make it right. And ideally, like for marketing, I was thinking it'd be great to add them in pictures. I would like to be able to do it online because it might be easier and easier to see, but I'm just not digital.
Yet.
I just like I've looked into, I think it was like ink art for maps, but it's more like topographic maps. So I'm like, yeah, I don't want to, this isn't for me.
Right.
So it'd be great for Instagram posts, social medias, as well as I would love to be able to actually put in the village map or the cabin, the camp in the actual printed copy.
That would be epic. And I
Because I love maps and books.
Yeah.
So then that way I would have to do it somehow digital, but that's a next year problem.
That's a next year problem, and maybe you would want to talk to some tabletop RPGers who have graphic design experience because they probably know how to do it. They probably do it for their own games and stuff. I would venture to assume and guess. So, based on conversations and writing sprints, both the ones you host on your channel and when you're on other people's channels, such as this one hanging out in the chat, it sounds like you travel from time to time. What are some essentials that you have to have as a traveling writer? And this is going to be one of our last couple of questions, everybody.
Okay, I would say for me, it depends on where I'm going. Last summer, I knew I was going to be in the truck because we drove from rural Saskatchewan all the way to Ottawa, Canada. And because we were moving one of the local teachers, and Gary and I have family in Ontario. So we got to spend a few days with family, and the teacher paid for our fuel. So that was nice. So in the truck, I knew I couldn't write, but I could revise. And of course, it was in July. And what's in July but Nano? So I did my revising of Nexus. I had all my entire book printed out in a binders, and I had a little pencil case with my pencils, colored pens, Post-it notes, index cards, because sometimes you just can't write properly in the truck. So I just used my Post-it notes because it was easier, and then just stick it on. And then if I'm going to be staying in an extended time, like when I would go back and visit family back in Ontario, I would be there for a week or two. Oh, and when I was traveling in the truck, I don't take my laptop. Like there's no sense. I did buy new headphones, which I was not impressed with because I had to charge them. I just wanted a plug it into your phone type deal. My new phone didn't even have the hole to put in the speakers.
Yeah, I'm not happy about that either.
Yeah, because I knew I wanted to attend some sprints. So I did that with the headphones, so I wouldn't bother the driver. But when I would stay at one place, I would bring my laptop so I can type up the revisions. I didn't print them out because it was just too annoying hooking up to another printer. Actually, one of my home visits, I totally changed, which is a soulless big chunks of like total rewrites, which was fun. And I don't think I would have done that if I wasn't home for the summer. But yeah, and I would also I also bring my writer's journal so I can keep track of what I'm doing, and any ideas I can just write into individual ones, because each one of my series does have its own writing journal. So I can keep track of certain things. It's like, oh, well, the chapter's finished with like 2,500 words. I revised it. It goes up, it goes down. It varies because I like to just keep track of that, just because there's no reason for it. Just because the same with different printouts. But yeah, that was about it for the travel.
So how many things in those books end up being plans for next year for you then?
Well, I'm finally taking Publish and Thrive.
Yay! Welcome.
I took HB90 for the first time in December, so I'll be ready for this year. I wasn't really ready last December. Like I had a few people, mainly family, who read my books. My dad read my first book of witches, and he reads fantasy, but not, of course, young adult. But he much preferred the rewrites. And he read Nexus for the first, I think he read about half of that. But he's at the age that he tends to forget that he read it. Because when he was visiting last time, he was asking me the main character's name. I'm like, okay, Dad, I think you've forgotten what you're reading now. But he said that my writing is improved drastically. And so because of that, and going to more writing sprints, I'm like, okay, I can do this. So last November, which is probably a bad time to send out beta reads. I think it was October actually, that to a bunch of hardies mostly that I've had my book beta read, suggestions, comments, and if it wasn't for Rachel, I would not have switched from Grammarly to Pro Writing Aid.
Oh,
Pro
yay!
Writing Aid is amazing, but I wish they would stop giving me suggestions and then changing it, because, oh, I suggest this, and then you do it, and there's like, oh, no, use this one instead. Or
what that normally means is there's actually an error somewhere else in the sentence that is causing a more obvious error. So Microsoft Word does this, Google Docs does this, Grammarly does this, everything does it. It does it in higher priority to lower priority. So that higher priority issue could actually be fixed by something else earlier in the sentence that is much easier to fix, like removing a preposition or changing your verb. And it's like, really?
Yeah, and I've also noticed that totally off topic, but they've got I've only had the free version for now, because there's like weeks I don't even use it.
Right.
But it was like this suggestion is like for the pay version, and so I play around with that, and a lot of time I just delete words and it sounds better, and they're happy with it. So because of Publish and Thrive, because I have done a little bit of research to do self-published like KDP. Oh my goodness, just going through their template, I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. And apparently my book cover, which my daughter-in-law created for me, was the wrong size. I'm like, well, okay, like I don't know how to change that. So
Canva. Because normally something like that.
She did it in Canva.
She did?
She made it in Canva as a book cover. So I'm thinking maybe I just did something myself because I'm not familiar with it. So ideally, I would like to, this is what I said last quarter, that I want to publish it and have, like, not necessarily publish, but have my actual paper back, proof copy, for my dad and I last Christmas. And well, now since I'm taking Publish and Thrive, and I'll hopefully be able to have at least my proof copy of books 1 and 2 before the end of the year. Like I'm hoping by October. And then even if it's not ready for publication, I have my book in my hand and my dad has a copy.
That right there is gold.
And then end up doing books 1 and 2 for that one. I really want to finish my total draft of Maple River, even if it is just book 1. Like I think I've got about 60 words in, and there's so much more that is coming along with the story. And a lot of things that I know this child was kidnapped, but why was she kidnapped? Is she dead? I have no idea. So I have to write as it comes, because I know in that one, like every other, like I have the first 10 chapters outlined. And that one in particular, by the end of the end of the 3rd chapter, I totally changed it, and the girls were finding things that they weren't supposed to find until chapter 10.
Wow.
But so it's kind of like discovery. And I would really love to have Witches of Solace ready for beta readers by the end of the year, even though that's Christmas, but at least they'll have it and then they can work on it in January. Mm-hmm. I would love to be able to do more writing streams, more consistent, as well as more tarot streams and just other of my writing process. And it'd be really nice, as I understand, that I'm a little bit more consistent with my Instagram postings. And maybe less cats, more of the writing process. But I don't think I'm ready for that, even though, heck, let's face it, I've written 6 books. So
you've written so much.
I have experience.
You do. You have played in the sandbox considerably. And I love it, and I'm so proud of you. And we have a couple questions we're going to hang on to for a part 2, maybe in another season, and get Miranda back here after some books have been out on the market. So if you want to hang out with my dear friend, please do feel welcome to go ahead and check out all that she does in the links in the description box. Take care of yourself. Give us an outro, my friend. Where all can they find you other than your channel?
I'm on Instagram, like I said, on Miranda_Magick. I do have a Wattpad account, and I do have Nexus there. It's a very rough copy now, since I've changed it so much. But I tried to get into my Wattpad account earlier, and I have to find my password and all that fun stuff. But I'm pretty sure it's just under Miranda Magick, because that seems to be my go-to, as well as Facebook, and I'm on Discord at a few of the servers, but I'm not as active as I probably should be. But who has time for that?
I gave up on Discord a couple years ago just because it was distracting me more than it was helping me. So I understand that statement.
Exactly. And there's some of the servers that they're just chatting, like, which is fine, but I'm not there to just catch up on 300 posts. Like, no, I'm just, if I want to chat with people, I go to writing streams.
Exactly.
And I cannot do replays. I've tried replays. I'd rather just do it on my own.
The energy is different. So if you want some really cool streams, go see Miranda's channel. And above all, take care of yourselves. You've all been worth it from the beginning.
Bye.